Okay, what happened? Armand,
I think
the
he
meeting,
froze. He might be coming back on. I think he froze.
are you there, Armand? Check. I think we got a couple pages going on. Victoria, is there anything going on I need to know?
No, I think he just froze, so he's probably just leaving and coming back.
Okay. All right. So we're going to go a little bit into his training, his background, the history, and then if what I would ask you all to do, if you don't mind, because it's really, really hard to see all the little boxes, and I don't want to miss anyone. So whatever your questions might be, if you don't mind, click on the hand, and then what normally happens, and it did in the last one, is when you click on the hand, it'll come up into my left corner, and then I can, here we go. And then I can kind of call on you there. So yeah, there's Martina already. So that's going to be the best way that I can see you all. Um, and we can edit this recording from all this stuff. Uh-oh, I think we're having a little technical difficulty on Armand's end. So bear with him. Oh, there you are. Okay. So Armand,
I don't know. I don't know how that you went froze and I didn't see you anymore.
I know it happens. It's okay. So what I was talking about is when you and I were talking the other evening, and we were talking about the actor studio, and then we went into training, and I was asked you, who you trained with, and you were talking about the impact that your coaches, your teachers made on your life. And we were talking about honoring the writer. And I would love to just have the students hear a little bit about that conversation and what writing means and the teachers meant to you, Armand, and how you got started.
Yeah, I mean, to be brief, because it's a very long process, but and to begin with, I just want to say I think that all of you there tonight, I mean, I think you know that you have the instrument to be actors and that you have all the emotion you need to be actors. But I will tell you, as a young actor, I was in the theater playing significant roles at a fairly young age. And by that, I mean, I was working on the great playwrights, and I was too young. And when I say too young, I didn't clock that I didn't have the life experience always necessary that sometimes you need just to play certain roles. So aside from actor, which was very intense, very much exposed to almost every form of process in New York and Europe for that matter. But I took it upon myself to get a mentor, and I worked with a very renowned teacher in New York, Mira Rostova, and my work with Mira for the next 25 years, because I involved her in every script I did. And it was about coaching, but it was also what she taught, which resonated with.
Armand, it froze.
Again?
Oh, there you go. You froze for a moment.
You have to truly comprehend the issue. And I worked very hard with her for many years. And I'll tell you, I think a lot of young actors that I see, I think you really have to discipline yourself to really make an exceptional effort to understand authors, understand their lives, understand their biography, understand where they come from. Really wrap your head around the world that they're trying to create. Because it really becomes a conduit for you, and for you to assume that you can get up for 2.5 hours in front of a theater and embody a role. It's a big task for a young person. And you don't get it till you're there. And the point is, we are the conduits, we are the receptor and the conduit of that author's soul. I like to use the metaphor of song. I don't know if any of you have ever written a song, but songs are like, they come from your heart, they're super personal. They usually have to do with our trauma, our fantasies, our sensuality, whatever is in us that we want to truly express very powerfully, because we use music in a sense to evoke it even more than what it is. And what I'm saying, when you take on a great playwright, and I'm saying this because I learned the hard way as a young actor, when you take on a great playwright, you have an obligation, you are the conduit of that author's soul. So I'm saying I cannot express, I don't teach, but had I taught, I would have definitely encouraged my students to really muscle up on reading. I will tell you that 75% of my year is reading. 25% if I'm lucky is something worth reading. And about 10% is stuff I may or may not be employed in. But that's the ratio, how much you have to read. But I would say as a young actor in the theater, digest as many playwrights as you possibly can. And I mean really make it a discipline. Study the playwrights, study their lives, study how their language differs from each one. Some like Hemingway, for instance, or Mamet, or Harold Pinter, they write in what's not said. It's what's not on the page. It's what's not being told you. But they give little hints as to what's happening. So you're looking at two people in this kind of minimalistic world, and you're seeing a whole world unfold before you. So I'm saying every writer works differently. But I would say to young actors today, study the playwrights, study the great writers, read. It is so significant. And especially today, there are terrific writers everywhere, always. But the point is that what it gave me, that foundation gave me after 10 years of theater, it at least equipped me with the muscle to be able to get in front of a film camera at no notice at all and go off like a firecracker. Because I had been engaged in the discipline of night after night after night after night, just working on plays and working with writers and working with playwrights. And, one of the strange ironies that's happened today is that people are forced to work so fast. And I will tell you, 40 years ago, the creative process that you have, Tina, in that class, that was thrown out the window. So today, you better go in, you better dance on your feet and get it right.
That's why I'm doing it. Armand, that's why I'm teaching it. That's exactly why I'm teaching it.
They have literally, technology has completely eroded the creative process. So if you don't go in really very well equipped, not only with having studied the role, by the way, my first sojourn into LA, I landed in LA, I got the script at 11 o'clock at night. I was on the set at 6:30 in the morning filming, and that was in 1977. So imagine that, getting off a plane, getting a script at 11 o'clock at night, and begin filming at 6:30 in the morning. That is the world we still live in, because it's all economics, it's all about money. And you have to have an alacrity in your instrument to dance to that rhythm. But I'm saying that you really fortify yourself through writers. We as actors must fortify ourselves with writers, and it gives us, I think, the authority to actually be able to continue, because it's a very elusive profession. And I will tell you, I see so many young actors, and my heart bleeds for them, because, for want of a better phrase, they're being thrown to the wolves. They don't have the opportunity. They don't have the opportunity to prepare. They don't have the opportunity to even know the director. They don't have an opportunity to say hello to people. I mean, it's a very strange world we live in. But I'll say to you, if you ever enter a film set, it is the most alienating place you could ever go, because everyone is fixated on their discipline, on their particular discipline. If you're in a film and you're part of that organism, it's a very wonderful place to be. But I'm saying, if you on a film set, you're not part of that organism. And it's a very alienating experience. Why is it alienating? Because you're not part of a process. And you have to be. And we as actors owe it to ourselves. If we don't have that process, create it, demand it. Make your fellow performers get together with you in a room around the table and work and work and work. You know, when I was a young actor, there's only one time in all the years I was in the theater, there's only one time that I agreed to be a standby. And a standby is if somebody gets the flu, you get to go on and hopefully you knock it out of the park, you hope. But the point is you prep all the roles in the piece, but you're ready to go off like a rocket ship. But I watched those rehearsals. The only reason I agreed to be a standby is that Mike Nichols, who was a renowned theater and film director, was directing the play. Well, what I observed from Mike Nichols is that he created a zone for those actors. No one was allowed to enter those rehearsals. No one. And he did that so that each actor would begin to trust the other. And he created, not unlike an orchestra, that ability, if somebody fails, somebody else picks it up. And it was a very, extremely verbose, very dense play about comedy in Northern England. And I will tell you, the magic that occurred because of his creating, in a way, the environment for the actor to function in. And I can't stress this enough. I mean, the really great directors, the great, number one, most of them don't have time to do that anymore. But I'm saying the really gifted directors that I've worked with, they hire you because they know you will deliver. You will deliver because you have before, but they hire you based on your physiognomy. They know exactly where to put the camera for you, and they trust that you have already done all the homework that you possibly can on their text. If you come in equipped, if you come in with your zone, and I try to tell younger actors to think of this, you know, everyone brings their own zone to the work, and the objective is for everyone to get in one zone, you know? And when I say zone, I mean the difference between, if you're playing a character from, say, 1861 and a character from 1961, there's a difference. The difference is that the character from 1961 has already been bombarded every day with tremendous amounts of information. A character in 1861, at best, he might have heard the ticking of a clock. It's a completely different rhythm. It's a completely different world. Words were very carefully selected so as not to be misinterpreted, because it was a much more volatile environment to live in. It didn't have the permissive lingo we have today where anything goes with the whistle blows. That was not the world people lived in. What I'm saying is everyone in a project is required to bring in their own zone. And that is what a director is looking for. And if you get to work with a gifted director will tweak it. And I was very lucky. I mean, just to tell you some oddball stories, I worked with Sidney Lumet. I'd already been in theater and film for like, I don't know, 21 years. I was 39 when I worked with Lumet. And when I went to work with the men, I kept saying to the actors, I said, why hasn't this guy won the Lifetime Achievement Award at the Academy? I mean, look at the volume of work this man. It's just inconceivable what Lumet produced. So he won the Academy Award 10 years later. That's the reality of the world. But anyway, I was working with him, and I was very intent on rehearsals, very long rehearsal periods. He's one of the few directors that really was what I call old school, and that he really spent 2 or 3 weeks with you, rehearsing 9 hours a day. So we went through every single beat of the piece. And I was doing very well in production, and everything went great. And one day, I felt I wasn't connected, you know, and he said, Armand, lean forward 6 inches. And I leaned forward, and I looked in that actor's eye, and a connection happened that was just electrifying. That's from a highly experienced director. But I'm saying it's so important to build your character based on a rehearsal process. I can't tell you enough. What I witnessed there, I mean, the film is filled with magical performances, but it was all based on that rehearsal process. And I will tell you, 90% of what's done today, there's no process. So that's my speech. That's my speech about process. But I'm not trying to discourage people, but it's something I really learned, and I paid very strict attention to it. You know, I'm at a point now, the difference between then and now, when I was a young actor, you function off your own arrogance and hubris and your willingness, much greater willingness to fail. Today, honestly, I want to know so much more. I've gotten not so much more cynical, but I want to know everything. Why are we doing this? And the issues of being an actor come up all the time. I'll tell you a wild story, and this is what I want young students to understand, Tina, and it happened to me yesterday. Of all times, I'm working here in my studio because I'm involved in a production that, out of the blue, 2 months ago, it's a very complicated production, but I really feel it has relevance. Out of the blue, 2 months ago, they called me up and they said, "We want you to play the role in French."
In
And I said,
French?
they want me to play the role in French, in the language, the French language. And I said, "But we agreed that I would play the role in English, not French." Anyway, I've made an agreement with them. I'm now playing the role in French. So I'm working with the instructor yesterday. And I'm going through the vowels. I heard Italian as a boy, I pick it up very easily. French has almost 4 different vowels from the same shape in your mouth. It's from here to here to here to here. There's 4 different vowels operating on the same formation of your mouth. So it's a complex language. And I have a great respect. I said, I have to be perfect in it or I'm not going to do the role. But as I was working with the instructor, it dawned on me, this is the issue that a lot of young actors don't understand. Is it very important to pay attention what I said about the writer? When you go to do a play, or even you go to do a screenplay, you are embarking on an entirely new language. You may not call it a language, but if you investigate every beat and the significance of what that author is really speaking about, if you investigate every beat, you go through that script so that you know every nuance of it. You go through those scenes day after day after day. It is like learning a new language completely. And I thought it was such an incredible, I mean, it just hit me in the head. I said, that's exactly what a young actor is thrown. And if you don't do that kind of homework, you cannot live on a stage. You want to live, you know, I think the most important advice I could ever tell a young, live it, just do it. And do not be intimidated by anything or anyone or anything. Live your work. But what I'm saying is bring your work to the room, bring it to the theater, bring your work. And that requires, I'd say the one thing, both of my parents are very gifted people. They were both artists, but I will say the one thing I inherited from my family, when I look back on everything, was discipline. It's the one thing I had when I was a very young actor. I was very disciplined because I had a tremendous respect for what I was trying to embark on, because I was already a professional performer. And any professional performer, they know what they're capable of. But if you're in territory where you don't have your gravitas, you don't feel the weight of who you really are, and then you're in front of 500 or 1,000 people, and you don't feel the weight of who you are, you get butterflies. It's no place to be. So I mean, I want younger actors to understand that this is it's a process, and it's a very magical process if you're willing to spend the time. I would say the biggest thing that actors, all artists today, are expendable, because no one wants to spend the time to develop anything. And any serious artist, actor, poet, playwright, painter, singer, whatever, they understand. If you don't put the time in, you cannot sing the song. It's that simple. But I want you to ask questions.
Oh, well, this was
Enough of me. Enough of me.
no, this is he's a teacher. He said he doesn't teach. Thank you, Armand. Okay, we do have questions. That was brilliant. Thank you. I hope you're all taking notes because I know I am. I'm going to call on some hands here and we'll just go with it. So I'll go from the left corner in my view to the right. So Martina, you are the first one. Oh, you can introduce yourselves also and where you're from. Oh, Martina? I guess she'll come back in. Just lost her. Greta, you're up in my left corner.
Okay, cool. Hi, Armand. It's such an honor to have you with us tonight. My name's Greta. I'm from Nashville, Tennessee. My question for you is, you kind of touched a little bit on it, like preparation is so key to every role you play. But my question was, what is the most challenging role you've had to play, and how did you approach your work?
The most challenging piece I've ever worked on was a film I did called When Nietzsche Wept. And I did it because I love that book. I think it is one of the greatest books ever written in the world on the male psyche and the male problem in the world. It's just a brilliant piece of work by a psychiatrist who uses, in a way, Nietzsche and Breuer as metaphors to demonstrate this. Because Nietzsche himself was in a very complex relationship with this woman called Lou Salome, who was, not that she was promiscuous, but she was behind about four of the most seminal artists of the 19th, 20th century. Amazing woman, amazing woman. But to get back to the discipline of that role and the problem, and I'll tell you a wild story. I realized every role that the psychiatrist Irving Yalom had written in that script. We made the film for nothing, by the way. It was made for like nickels, and by the end of the film, they gave up on the chocolate and the coffee. The crew was dropping dead. It was a bad scene. But my point is that I realized after about 2 weeks when I first read it, the script, that every line that the writer-director chose was literally a line of Nietzsche's poetry. So it's not ordinary dialogue, it's actually demonstrative philosophy. So there was, you have that, I'm gonna live in this role, I wanna play this role. And yet at the same time, the discipline was to stay within the confines of the exact words that he wrote, never to go outside that. This is not an improv. This is like one of the greatest writers that ever lived. So that was challenging in and of itself. So I hired a German actor who really was marvelous, not only a human being, a great opera singer, and an amazing, talented actor. I said, Andres, I want to know the German context, not the translation. I want to know what he wrote in German. Because as you know, a lot of things that are translated become diluted and turned upside down. And Andres, I brought him with me, and not only before and during the entire shoot. And I said, I really want to stick to the discipline of every line, because it's a tremendous obligation. It's a little like doing Shakespeare. If you do Shakespeare, and if you don't ride the iambic pentameter, or Shaw, and you don't say the 16 sentences in one breath, and you arrive at a semicolon, you get lost because there's just so many words. And the thing is, with that, I was very grateful for the work that Andreas and I did. And I'll tell you a wild story, because I would always say to him, again, repeat the German context of this. What section of Zarathustra, or what section of the Will to Power, or what section of Nietzsche does this come from? And one day he said, you have that scene tomorrow, and I was thinking, read these chapters now, because it'll really make you think about what you have to convey tomorrow. And do you know, I went back to the book that I've had since I'm 18 years old. It's when I first read Nietzsche when I was 18, when I was in the academy. And do you know that I had yellow highlighted every line in the 3 chapters that he gave me when I was 18 years old?
Wow.
I was 56 when I played the role. So in other words, his words had impact on my 18-year-old brain. And there I am playing in the 56. So it was a very, very, very powerful experience. And but again, you asked what was difficult. That is difficult. It's a very difficult exercise because you really have to embrace the language, but not just in that particular instance, is understanding the context in which it's written. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Greta, your question
Absolutely.
answered.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you so much.
So we're hearing that how he approaches the work. Yeah. Audrey.
Hi, my name is Audrey Jeffson. I live in Nashville, or Tennessee, in Manchester, actually, Manchester, Tennessee. And so I have one question, but at the very beginning, you completely answered it. So I do have another one, and it is, what's your opinion of going to a school like Belmont or Juilliard for the sake of studying acting or the experience? Do you think it's really worth the time and effort I will need to put into it?
I really do, because as I mentioned before, the creative process today for the young actor has been completely eroded. No one is devoting the time that they should. I don't mean to discourage you, and I'm not. But what I'm saying is when you get into a competitive environment of surviving as an actress or an actor today, the tools are not always available for you to lean on, and to a director sometimes will come in with a shot list and you will feel like you're bothering him because you're, what do you mean by this moment?
Mhm.
You know, let me get to you a little later on. My point is you don't want that to happen. So
Yeah.
what drama school does is it really fortifies you. It strengthens your muscles. It's like going to a gym every day. It's like being in a ballet school where you have to go to the bar every day and work out. And if you don't work out, you know you're not going to get anything out of the class. Well, in this instance, you will not get a kind of a grip on the profession, which is the brilliance of these schools, is that, you know, I'll tell you one thing about America, which is, because I've lived all over the world and I've acted all over the world, and I've been to the most remote places on earth. One thing, parents have always come to me no matter where I am, and they say to me, how can I get my son or my daughter into an American drama school? It's their dream. It's their dream. And the thing is that people from all over the world now want to be part of the American creative process in theater and film. Why is that? It never happened in their countries. They don't have the industry that we've built, which ironically now is becoming one of our last staple industries. The industry and the opportunities for you really exist. And what I'm saying, why you go to school, is to make sure that you become part of that process. You want them to exist for you. You want to walk into a room and knock them out of their chair with your work. And my point is that everyone in the world right now wants to be part of the American entertainment industry, which is why you have the negative end of it is that you have TikTok and Instagram, all this nonsense, useless information, which is not really focusing. It's not useless information. It's all entertainment. But I'm saying the discipline of what you need as a performer, you get from a really good school. And Juilliard, by the way, has been around for 100 years. I mean, it's a renowned school, a very, very fine school. But I would really encourage you to consider it, or consider any of the other schools in New York. But Juilliard is it's up there, way up there.
Yeah, I always wanted to be able to get into Juilliard, and I think it would be very amazing if I could get in there, but I wanted to ask from a professional opinion if it is going to be helpful in my journey as an actor, and you've completely answered it. Thank you.
Could you repeat that?
I'm unmuted. Can you hear me?
It's just hard to hear. Go ahead. It's
Oh,
okay.
yes. Yes. Thank you for answering my question. You did. And it really makes my decisions easier as I go into thinking more about schools I want to attend.
Thank you so much. God
Thank you
bless
for
Thank
coming
you,
to
Audrey.
Thank you.
Okay, Victoria.
Hi, Mr. Assante. So great to
Hey,
meet
how are you?
you. Yeah, so you're talking a lot about language tonight. I was curious your process with accent development. Um, just as far as accents, because you were talking about learning whole new languages, but what kind of things do you do when you're processing performing with an accent as far as the character work?
Like who?
um, so let me just condense it. So my question is, how do you, when you're approaching your character, and your character has a vastly different accent than your normal, wording, how do you go about that? Like, what is that process like for you?
It's not dissimilar to what I described earlier in that you have to break everything down, especially if you work with a character who has an accent or is from a particular locale. I remember years ago I worked for Robert Redford Sundance Institute, and I was working on a project about the Cajun people in the 19th century. And Cajun is unquestionably one of the most mind-bending accents I've ever heard in my life. It's literally 4 accents happening simultaneously. It's French, it's American South, it's West Indian, and there's a little of African juju in there. So I mean, it's a complex accent. What I'm saying is, I went down to live with the people for about a month.
Uh-huh.
And I honestly, it wasn't just the accent that I learned, it was their culture. And what I learned, I was in pursuit of the accent.
Uh-huh.
But as soon as I got there, my video camera was going all day long. I was videotaping interviews with I've done a lot of documentary work myself, but listen, we're actors, all we are, we're students of human behavior. What I did was I filmed these Cajun people. Some of them you can barely understand a word they say. It's amazing the way they talk, the rhythm that they talk in. But what I loved was that it wasn't just the accent that I mastered, but I got a sense of their love of the land, their love of their time zone, their love of growing their own food, of growing the animals that they cook, of their love of each other. On Sundays, they would go to church and then dance all day long. I mean, it was just, people have no idea how rich the tapestry of American culture is. I was privileged as a young actor. I went into all these pockets all over the world. But I'm saying that was one of the most cherished memories of my life. And I could not wrap my head around the writing, because I just, who are these people and what is this about? I couldn't wrap my head around it. And I said, and now I have to learn how they speak. So I went down there purposely to live with them. And it was a magical mystery tour. It was so powerful, But I encourage it. And again, what I said earlier, getting back to what I'm doing right now and having to learn this whole script in French, take the time. It's amazing. But if you can take the time, just break everything down into little beats. And eventually you will build a building block. And then you'll build another building block and another building block. And eventually you'll build a role. And my point is, I think you cannot be defeated by the fact of how much discipline it takes to go into just building one little block. There's a lot of work that goes into, but if you look around you and look at the world, I mean, look at the cathedrals that were built that took 500 years, one block at a time. And they're still being built. They're never finished. That always amazes me. Cathedrals all over the world have never been completed. So think of that as an analogy, especially when you come up against a task that's, may not be the most rewarding thing you've done, but something that really challenges you. I always harken back to all the things in the world that are never completed and all the labor that goes into something. So we can't complain. We have a great privilege in being communicators. But that I'm glad you brought that up, because that was one of the great, truly miraculous experiences I've had on the road.
Yeah.
That's
Thank
so
you.
awesome. Yeah. So I'm going to call on someone who's actually here, who has a Cajun accent, who lives in Louisiana, that has a question, and that is Richard.
Good to meet you. Richard Zarang. I'm from South Louisiana, if you can't tell.
Where are you from, Louisiana?
It's Donaldsonville, Louisiana. It's in between New Orleans and Baton Rouge, right on the Mississippi River. And
I was just working down there.
You were probably more to the Lafayette area, I'm guessing, because that's the heart of the Cajun land.
That's where I worked. I love that place.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
and it is a completely different culture. But I wanted to ask you, one of the things that you mentioned about, I forget exactly how you put it, but you said not to be intimidated by anyone on the set or anything. Bring your own self, and I think that is truly so important. But what kind of psyche? What do you tell yourself when you're on the set? I mean, I'm talking about especially with us who haven't worked around a lot of A-list actors and all, and then we get a role where we're on a set with an A-list actor, to not be intimidated, but to be yourself.
That's an excellent question, and I've seen that happen before my very eyes, and I'll tell you all the more reason why you must embody your work. That's all the more reason. I mean, believe it or not, those famous actors, the actors and actresses, they're not interested they're interested in getting their work on screen, getting their zone. Nobody, this is the truth about, and it's unfair, because in a great piece of theater, you create a living organism. Everybody knows each other. Everybody. In film, that doesn't happen. It's very rare. So your question is a very valid, powerful question, and that is that know that when you step up to the plate to get involved in the film and television world, nobody has the time to cultivate your character with you or you. So what I really urge you to do is discipline yourself all the more, so that when you walk into the room, they look up and they go, who is this? Oh my God, look what this guy's bringing to the table. This is the guy we're looking for, because they want that kind of support. You know, very few actors want somebody to, nobody wants anybody to outshine them, if I would say. But my point is, most of the actors that I've worked with all my life are welcoming you because they want you to bring your utmost to their story. So keep that in mind. And I will tell you, there are stars that live in their own world. You can't blame them. Usually it comes from their own terrible insecurity. That's from terrible insecurity. It's from a profound fear of failure. If you're going into this business, forget failure. You're going to fail every day. You're going to fail for years. That's just part of the territory of what you're doing. But that's a great question, because I've seen that happen. And again, I've never seen famous actors be discourteous to anybody. I have seen them distance themselves. But the actors that I champion, they're more often to throw their arms around you and say, thank God you're here. I love what you did. Do more. Go further with it. You know what? When you do that, throw the television through the window. I mean, you know, they want to pull stuff out of you. And to me, the real generous actors will always encourage the actors around them to work harder. And it's a great question, because I think a lot of, especially young actors, film is a very intimidating environment. That's what I meant before. When you walk on a set, if you're not part of the group, it's a very alienating experience because everyone's so fixated on what they're doing, you know. But yeah, go in and bring it. And believe me, if you bring it, it will be seen, it will be registered, and it will be noted.
Right.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. Thank you, Armand. Great question, Richard. You know, Stella always used to say, Armand, preparation is what brings the confidence. So it's all about doing that work and being prepared in advance. Stella Adler, she always used to say, preparation is what brings the confidence. If you're not prepared, you don't have the confidence. It's the preparation that brings you the confidence when you need it. Being prepared in the work. So it's exactly what Armand is saying. That's a great question. Thank you. Laura, I think that's your hand. Oh, there you go, hon. Yeah.
Hi there. Hi, Armand. Nice to meet you.
Hey.
I was curious, as your career grew, how you navigated the industry as that happened, as you began to get more roles. How did you navigate your preparation as life got busier and busier, and maybe you had to pick and choose roles or have things back to back? How did you find the balance as things got busier with time?
You mean you're talking about it's very hard to hear on the Zoom call, but what I'm saying is that you're talking about the pace at which you have to work when you're creating work, sometimes back to back to back.
Yes. Yes.
Believe it or not, I'm doing that this year, and I will tell you that I do nothing but study.
Right.
I have no life. Right now, I have no life. But what I will say as well is that what I did for my life, and I really urge you to do the same, and do not think this is a weak choice. If you want to be a great dancer, you work with a great partner, or you work with a great choreographer. If you want to dance, if you want to be a boxer, you'd better work with a good partner. If you want to play tennis well, you play with a better player. But I'm saying up your game, and by that I mean do not be afraid to get a mentor and have that mentor, or what I call a script analyst, break things down with you every day and process it with you every day till it becomes literally inside your DNA. That's my quid pro quo for being an actor. If it's not in my DNA, I will be terrified of going onto a set. And my point is this: if you're working back to back, I have to do that now for the next 3 months. If you're working back to back on different projects, you have to be ahead of yourself. So what happens if you don't have a mentor, which is what I'm doing now, I will stay up till 2, 3 in the morning just studying, because I know I have to be a month ahead of myself. You just have to do that. That's unfortunately the nature of the beast of the profession. But let me tell you something. If you want to be a concert violinist, you want to be a concert pianist, it's the same drill. You have to prepare constantly. That's why I never refer to this as a profession anymore. This is a way of life. If you're not integrated into this way of life, if you're not interested in making a shorthand in the discussions about what do they need from me, exactly what do they need, what do they want done on that particular date, I have to rev my engine and know that I'm going to be in tune for that particular date. And that really is your principal obligation. And I find that it's a very, very good question you ask, because there's nothing worse than feeling that you're not in the zone when you walk on a set. I've seen it happen to actors. It is no joke. It is no joke, because these productions cost money. It's that simple. And that reality is thick in the air. It's like a black cloud, you know? It's this disturbing fact. But the point is, when you are working a lot, and my hat's off to you if you can, it rarely happens in anybody's career, but sometimes you are forced to do things back to back. And sometimes you get to a point in your career, you had better do it back to back, because you're not going to get that sequence of opportunities again. So you have to do it back to back. That's what I'm talking about. get a mentor, work out, train, discipline yourself all the time. And I'm telling you, you'll be amazed. Like I said before, if you break it down into little blocks of work, it'll all add up, but you have to do the work every day. And it's,
Yes.
you know, it's one of the, believe it or not, it's one of those professions. Every now and then you get somebody who's immensely gifted and they can make things look terribly easy. But my point is, there's very few of those people. There's very few of those people. I mean, I've worked with some of the best pros in the industry, and I will tell you, it's all discipline. It may look like something else. It's not. It's all discipline.
Fabulous.
That's
All right.
great. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yeah. John.
Armand, I'm John. Good to meet you. And thank you for investing in us tonight, taking time to invest in us. We really appreciate it.
Especially when he has 4 projects going and
Oh
he's
my
made time to
goodness.
do this. Yeah.
Yes, it
Just
means a
finished a
lot.
documentary and has 4 other projects. We are immensely grateful.
Thank you.
Thank you, Armand.
Thank you.
John.
One thing you said, I just want to point, it just hit me when you said actors are students of human behavior. And that I want to take that, I want to chew on that some more, but that's some really good stuff. I wanted to ask you a question. What's a healthy way that you handle fame? How do you handle that when as a famous actor, how do you what's a healthy way to handle that? Because as an actor, as you move up through the ranks, that's going to happen. How do you handle that? What's a good way to handle it?
How do I handle the application of that?
The fame, like being famous, being a famous person. How do you handle it? In a good way?
You know, I don't have time to give it a thought. You know, I'll tell you something. You become famous for one reason. You want to work, and with me, I wanted to raise my family, and I had to make a lot of compromises in my career because of the fact that I've always lived well. I made it a point to live well. I figured life's too short not to live well. But I had big compromises because of that, and I always took care of my family. They came first. I've always I protected myself really in an extraordinary way. But the thing is that it's part of the ticket. And you know, I think when I was very young, it really was disturbing. I mean, I left Hollywood at a very early age. I lived on a farm right in this room for the last 35 years. I've created the bulk of my career right in this room. And what I'm saying to you is that it is something you have to learn to live with, but it has nothing to do with your work. Absolutely nothing to do with your work. You have to focus only on what's handed you and what your principal obligation is to the playwright or the screenwriter or the director. Or I've worked on documentaries. It's a very interesting thing you ask, because when I say a student of human behavior, I'm working on a documentary right now, and it's a very, very vulnerable stuff where I talk to men who were all 60 years later still surviving PTSD from the Vietnam War. And what I observe in them when I watch them, because I've done a number of interviews and I've watched hundreds, and there's a very similar thing that happens when they talk about the war, which is, it's kind of heartbreaking. There comes a point where they stop, they get stuck, and you can almost see this PTSD revisit them. But I was analyzing it in a recent interview I watched, and I thought, well, if a playwright had written what that man just told me, what I just saw, how would he write that? Because if he tells you that I was in the jungle and my best friend stepped on a landmine and he landed in my lap, yeah, it could bring tears to your eyes. But now you put yourself in the boots of that man. You say the initial trauma is the physical trauma of being assaulted horribly, that affects your amygdala. Your amygdala goes into hypervigilance, and you're stuck in a pattern of fight and flight. For years, you don't get out of that pattern. So that's trauma number one. Trauma number two is I didn't ask, the realization that you didn't ask to be part of this. Whether you volunteered or not, you didn't ask to be part of this war. So you stepped off a helicopter, you stepped off an airplane, you became part of that war. You became the war itself. That's trauma number two. Trauma number three is you went home. You were condemned for being part of that war. You were ostracized by your community. You were spit at for being part of that circumstance that you yourself did not create. That's trauma number three. Trauma number four is the realization that these people that spit at you, these people that ostracized you, these people that alienated you, they have violated your moral code, as your moral code was completely shattered from the war, you know? So, and moral code is, I think, one of the principal issues I've watched when I watch these veterans. Their moral code was completely violated in the realization. That's trauma number four. Trauma number five is the realization, how can I ever forgive myself for the circumstances I allowed to happen? That's what hits me in the heart when I watch these guys. And I'll tell you something, what's really interesting, I said before, if a writer had written that in the script, do you know what that moment is written as? Pause.
Wow.
Pause. That's what I mean when I say, let us be students of human behavior. Really watch behavior. I mean, you know, we live in a world right now where there's a lot of useless information, but there's a lot of brilliant information as well. Never before. I mean, I could stay on YouTube all night and think I got a doctorate. No, there's so many brilliant journalists. There's brilliant historians. I mean, I mean, as tools, as an actor, the tools I use are those people. I listen to 4 different journalists. They all have different opinions. This guy leaves out 3 important historical facts. Well, if he's leaving those facts out, I can't listen to him anymore, because that's the reason we're in this goddamn war. He left out the facts. My point is, that's what I mean by being a student of human behavior. You have to watch, no matter what you do. It's like I said before, when I went down to live with the Cajun people, that was a tremendous, really very life-changing experience. I elected to do it, but wow, what a lesson, you know, and what a lesson, you know, here I am at my age, and I'm learning for guys my age who have been through the war that are still suffering with this monumental violation of their lives. And it really is, this is a journey. That's why I don't, like I said before, it's not a profession.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I will say this, especially to your young actors there tonight, you know, one of the beauties and privileges, and I really look upon this industry as a privilege. It is an amazing privilege. It is a ticket to the world. You will meet so many like-minded people like yourself who are asking the same questions you are. And what I'm saying is, it will validate your beliefs on the complexities of how you negotiate your way through this particular style of life. And it does become a lifestyle. It's not something that's simplistically realized at all. But I'll tell you, that very thing of what I did 40 years ago, I'm still applying today. And what I'm saying is that you never stop learning, ever. And if you believe that, you gave it up.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We dive deep into human behavior in classes, Armand. That's the whole text. And I think I shared with you, we had Larry Moss on recently, and you're saying exactly the same things. That's what it is. And we dive deep into human behavior because that's what this is. So it's so brilliant to hear this coming from you and how deep you dive into the study of the work and the human behavior. It's huge. Yeah, this is why you're the actor's actor, in my opinion. And I share that with so many people because it's just amazing to hear you. I hope you're all here, and we'll talk about this in class too, but Armand is so established in the work, in the art, in the craft, and so respected. But what you're hearing is the same thing. Keep doing the work, keep studying, keep reading. Everything that we talk about, it just doesn't end. It depends on how you want to grow and how far you want to go and grow in the art. So it's amazing to hear this. Again, it just backs everything up that we talk about and we learn, and what Larry shared with us too, Armand.
Getting back to what you said just now, I think the hardest thing, because I've known a lot of actors all my life. I knew a lot of people that really struggled deeply with this, and I still do. And it sometimes, believe it or not, it's heartbreaking to watch because it's not a forgiving environment. But my point is that, and that's what I was trying to say earlier, is that young people, believe it or not, they know if they're equipped for this application. And they know, God bless Simon Cowell, because if you sit and watch that show, all those kids, they just want to be heard for one moment and for somebody to give them a nod, which is what? It's validating their belief. I am equipped to do this. I have what it takes to do this. Why is it not happening? And what I love is when he gives them the encouragement, just do it. We're giving you the freedom. Take the moment and just do it.
Yeah.
It is so beautiful. And what I'm saying is, often this environment, the professional environment of being in theater and film, is very pressured. I want you.
Oh, you froze. It froze, Armand. Uh-oh.
There we are.
Uh-oh. There you are. You
Am I back?
froze. Yeah, you're good.
So what I was saying is that what I want for young actors is to have the experience of somebody who has the authority and the confidence enough to say, take the space, take the moment. Don't rush through this.
Yeah.
This is a process by which you build things. If you're going to be a storyteller, an author, think of the work that an author puts into a piece. When I was a very young actor, I partly because of my Italian influence as a boy, I heard Italian. I was still in that rhythm when I was speaking English. So as a young actor, I spoke very fast. Everything had to be so fast because I spoke all the time, and I was always working, but I had an incredible pace at which I spoke. Over the years, I've really slowed down. I mean, I've slowed down to 33 now. I'm almost on 16. But my point is, people have to understand that actors have to be given the space. They have to be given the space to find the moment. Stop. Let it happen. We're not here to impress each other. We're here to find things that give us tools for work. But I think that is the principal thing that I watch in the environments that I'm in film especially, and my heart goes out to actors because they're not given the space. And a good director, I will say there's a lot of directors out there. Very rarely will you work with an enlightened director who knows how to help you create a zone for yourself. And
Right.
last, you have to create a zone for everyone you work with, or they can't work. They get jammed up.
Yep. Excellent. I know we got to move along. Suzanne.
Hi, Armand. It's such a privilege to meet you. I have been a fan for a very long time.
Thank you. You have.
Yes. And you're
Very
in
I know.
Oregon, No, you're in Washington State.
I'm in
Suzanne.
Washington.
Everybody's from everywhere.
Yes.
Go ahead.
So many things I'd like to ask you. What I've enjoyed so much is hearing your process and how you are a student and how you never stop learning. So what I want to ask is, when you approach a script, when you have a role, what for you is the most important part of your preparation? What do you do every time you research a character, you look at the script? What's the first thing you do?
You're frozen again. We'll give him a minute. Oh, so great questions, everyone.
Oh, no,
There you
therefore.
are. Okay. Did you hear? Were you able to hear the question, Armand?
Yeah, yeah. I try. I really try to comprehend the world where the writer is coming from, the world that he's talking about, the environment that he's speaking of, and that could be something as simple as New York City law office, law firm. But what is the environment in that firm? What are the kind of cases they're taking on? Specifically, how pressured are those lawyers? What's the general environment? You know, some of them are hellholes. So what I'm saying is, you have to investigate the tenor of that environment. It's really kind of like going on a little journey, and in a way, taking yourself, negotiating your way through that environment to find out, what are these people being hit with every day that makes it different than my life or somebody else's life? What were they experiencing at that particular moment? And that's something, especially now, where people are moving all over the world, they're living in different places, they're putting themselves in completely different environments. It's a lot to adjust to. But I'm saying, if you take a role on as an actor and you don't understand the temperature in Brazil in January, in the jungle, you're not going to be able to fake it with a green screen. I mean, you got to understand how suffocating that is to be in that environment.
That's right.
In January, in the jungle. Whatever it is, you have to put yourself, immerse yourself, do enough homework to understand, in a way, the conditions that the writer is writing about for the character has a tremendous amount to do with what is happening. I saw a brilliant film just recently. I hadn't been able to watch it yet, that I thought was so beautifully directed, called Anatomy of a Fall, with a German actress. I think her name is Sandra Huller. It's an astonishing performance. But if you look at the journey this actress takes you on, of going back, she's accused of murder, but she takes you on a journey describing her relationship with her husband, which is so fraught with all kinds of complications and damages that people do to each other, and hurts and non-forgiveness. But what I deeply appreciated was the specifics at which that director led everyone, all those actors, through every beat of that journey, which is basically a flashback. So at one moment, this little young 10-year-old actor is having a flashback about something that happened with his father and the dog. That director has to put that actor in the zone of what happened 4 months ago in the room. So it's a combination of you, the writer, the director, of really examining the circumstances very, very closely. Very, very important. And that's what I look for when I read. And don't get me wrong, I probably have 30, 40 films I will never see, because I knew there was no process when they were made. They were just factory-made films, machine. I was feeding my family. I worked all over the world. But when you see a director who really takes you on a journey, and I will say this, there are directors who will take you on that journey. And that's the magic of your life. That's the magic you look for. Is when you're spiritually and physically aligned with people that want to go on the same journey, that's powerful. That's playing in a real orchestra. That's playing the music. And that's it in a nutshell. But I also urge you to watch that film. It's just brilliantly done.
Thank you so
Fantastic.
much. I appreciate it.
Okay, we have, it looks like two more. Armand, can you hang on just a few more minutes?
I'm here.
Oh, thank you so much. Okay. Looks like Vincent.
Yes. Can you guys hear me?
Uh-huh.
All right, awesome. Thank you, Armand, for coming in to talk with us tonight. It was really, just special of you to do this, and I just want to appreciate you as a fellow Italian to another.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. But my question to you, after watching that interview that you did with Charles Clapsaddle for MeTV, kind of got there. Oh, before tonight, I don't know if you heard that part. Did you?
What's the question? Just ask. Go ahead, Vincent.
Right. Okay. Anyway, so my question to you was, getting into character, have you ever done anything out of character, yourself in question, whether it be your words or actions, and what did you do to rectify it?
Can you repeat that slowly? It's just the transmission, it's not you.
Yeah.
It's the transmission.
Yeah. Getting into character, have you ever done anything out of character, yourself in question, whether it be your words or actions, and what did you do to rectify it?
I probably have in all the years that I've been doing this, but I don't make it a habit. I don't make it a habit. Because in a way, when you do that, you kind of take everything out of, everything suddenly gets jarred out of context. I think it's very important, that's what I said earlier about that director, Mike Nichols, of creating that space and not allowing anything else to enter into it.
Right.
Because that really creates trust in actors. And don't get me wrong, there's things happen on sets that just people can't believe the things that happen on movie sets or even in the theater. People get really shaken up, or audience members get shaken up. There's all kinds of things that happen in it. But I think you have to be disciplined enough to constantly stay in the rhythm of what you're working on and get right back on the horse. I mean, you fall off that horse, you better get back on the horse. You'll never ride again. It's
right.
I rode horses very late in life, but I went at it like a real horse rider. And the thing is, it's a fact. If you fall off a horse, you better get, and whatever you do not get hurt again, because hurt on a horse is unforgiving. So those are the things you have to learn as an actor as well, and you have to apply yourself. Don't get hurt. And there's another thing I did as a performer, because I did a lot of stunts, and I was injured. But my point is, you rehearse a stunt endlessly, so nothing can affect that stunt. If you do it with a stuntman, it's done properly, you're protected, chances are you're not going to get hurt. But if you do, you have to remember, analyze, why did that happen? Why did that happen? What did I do wrong? How did I check myself out of the zone for that split second that allowed that to happen? And it happens to people every day. Somebody goes, boom, and boom, they're hurt. But I'm saying, you rectify it, get back immediately into it.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you something, when people are pulled out of their zone, it's a very jarring thing. And that's why I urge, especially young actors, get right back into the moment. Don't drift. Don't think, oh my God, did I go up? Where am I? Forget that. Go right back into the moment. I have so many stories when I won't tell you, I won't bore you. In the theater,
Not boring me.
things that happen to actors that you couldn't believe. I mean, just would make you laugh to your side split, because they would just freeze up. What the hell was that? I mean, they get really spooked, you know? So I won't go into it, but yeah, I said, just get back on the horse.
Yeah. Great. Joey, thank you, Vincent.
No, thank you. Thank you, Armand.
Hi, Armand. I'm Joey, and
Hey,
in
hey,
I'm in South Carolina. Hi. And I echo everyone. Thank you so much for your generosity with your time.
my
I'm
pleasure.
I'm gonna kind of switch gears because we're talking a lot about the young kids and coming up into the business. For those of us that have kind of been in the business and studied and in our youth and kind of went this way with life, taken us in another direction and come back to our calling a little bit later. I connected with Tina and I was going to try to talk her into showing me how to do voiceover so nobody could see me. And she kind of gave me a little attitude adjustment about that. And she said, your gift will always follow you. And that
Find
struck
you.
me, or find me. And that struck me. And so I've been with her 3 years studying, but I always kind of shrink back because I think it's later in life now. So what encouragement could you give those of us that have come back? It's still burning. It's still burning inside. I'm not done. I feel like I have still have gift to give, but I shrink back because I feel like the time has passed. So what encouragement or tips could you give some of us that are coming back later to the gift?
Such a powerful idea, let alone question. But I think a lot of it has to do with your own self-examination. If something fulfills you, and do you have the desire to fulfill others with what you have? I mean, you know, we can approach this from two different angles. We can say, well, they wouldn't be interested in hearing what I have to say. Why would they even be interested? I'm practically invisible to them, which is a reality. It's a reality. You're practically invisible to people. But you know something? What I thought of was when I was a very young actor. When I think of all the people that took the time to look into my soul and to pass through my soul, you don't realize you have a lot to offer people. That changed my life as an actor. And I said this in an interview the other day. I said, when I think of all the souls that have passed through my soul, that have rectified my life, that have validated my life, that have taught me, that had the patience to stay with me. And I've even told my daughters, if you get one teacher in your lifetime, whether you're playing the piano, you're playing the violin, you're writing something, whatever you're doing, jumping up and down, and that teacher will sit there and say, take it again. Take it again. Take it again. You won the lottery. You won the lottery. Because that's what this process is about. Patience. And I could cite Tina asked me something that I couldn't answer because I thought, honestly, I was so blown away by that question. She asked me the other day, what is the most memorable moment you had as a young actor? And because moments are really the byproducts of relationships. All the moments we have in our lives between you and I, it's between people. These are real moments that's happening right now, here and now. And my point is the thing that I remember is the multitude of so many people that were willing to put up with me. You know, I was this broiling mass of testosterone that wanted to be a performer. You know, I originally wanted to be a soldier, and my father, who was in the Marines, said, you're not going to Vietnam. You're not going to be a Marine. I'll teach you how to be a Marine. I'll teach you what Vietnam. He said, you put yourself through school now. Go through school in your own buck, which I did. So I became a laborer. But my point is that when I think of all the people along the way, that's why you have to give value to what you have to offer. Because I could have thought Tina, these people don't want to hear from me. I mean, I'm off the map. I'm off the map. What can I possibly give them they don't know? And a lot of them, they do know already. I know that. But my point is that it's only a conversation. But I'm saying that I think you have to think of what a profound effect you have on people without your knowing. Because those same people had a profound effect on my life.
It's huge.
Thank you.
Boy, that's the takeaway of a night. There you go, Joey.
Thank
Couldn't
you.
get a better answer than that, sweetheart.
So
That was beautiful. Thank you, Armand.
thank you so
Beautiful.
much.
Yeah. Ah, God bless you, girl. I love you. And she's a wonderful actress. We're getting there. She's going to get those, she's going to start stepping out a little bit more. Um, Mitchell, I have
Hey,
three more
Mr. Oh,
questions and we'll have to stop there because I promised Armand I'll have him out by 8 o'clock. So an hour and a half. So go ahead, Mitchell.
hey, Mr. Asante. My name's Mitch. I'm from Tennessee. Thank you for being here and taking the time to answer our questions and help us all. So
Thank you.
I have done acting my whole life from just mainly theater, but not professionally, never wanting to pursue it as a career until recently, towards the end of last year. And I just really felt like I was called and I needed to make the move to use, as Miss Joey said, to use the gift to offer to other people as well. And so for me, I really struggled to come up with a question just with, wanting to sound, a good question for everybody else. But I guess honestly, the question that I have that I think would give the most value to ask is that as a new actor and someone who's wanting to, start the journey into doing this as a career and a profession for, hopefully the rest of my life, what would you say is the most valuable thing someone who is just starting out um, in the acting world to do and to make the most value of their time and their work that they do?
Have you been to any kind of formal training in college or school?
No, sir. I've just been working and then taking classes as they've come online and
I mean,
stuff.
you say working, are you working in the theater or in professional productions?
No, sir. I just got my first acting job a couple days ago, but I'm working just a normal day job on the side.
I think that's terrific. And what I said at the very beginning of this interview was that I really do encourage, if you want to enter this as a profession, believe me when I said what I said is absolutely true. There's very little time for the creative process. You have to bring so much. You have to bring your own zone into these productions. And I really encourage you to work at a school where you're permitted to fail all the time. And you want to fail, make failure your best friend. I mean, really learn the ropes, that this is not something that you're just going to be magical. It's not magic. Yeah, acting is a lot of work and a lot of understanding and a lot of, like I said, discipline. But what the school will give you is it'll challenge you to step up to that discipline. And it'll remind you every day you're in that school of that discipline and remind you of a process that you have to really understand in order for you to be a professional actor. Because I think that is the greatest dilemma that I see among young people that I've monitored some classes around the country, and I've spoken to a lot of young performers. And I would say the one thing that's lacking in the world today is they don't quite grasp how important it is to commit yourself to a task, no matter what it is. And I'll tell you, it's not their fault. They're in a world of total distraction.
Yeah.
You're in a world today where you're distracted 24/7. You know, I was saying to my buddy Peter that the phone rings all night long. You're getting messages and texts all night long. Why? Well, there's emergencies in your family, whatever the case may be. My point is there are so many devices that are distracting you. They're giving you profoundly useless information. Unless it's really urgent, shut it out. focus on writers, focus on what is going to give you muscles as an actor, focus on what's going to give your voice a muscle as an actor, what's going to give your body, work out, become the embodiment of a tool that could be used successfully in a production. And my point, if that, why I say go to a school, is because a school they will expose you to Tina's work. They will expose you to Meisner's work. They'll expose you to Strasberg's work. They'll expose you to Huggins' work. Maybe somebody might even expose you to the work that I did with Mira Rastola over many, many years, or Cliff Osmond, brilliant script analyst of mine. My point is, you need to be exposed to those processes for you to not only make up your mind about how you want to negotiate your work, but that exposure is going to tell you, do I want this as a vocation, or do I want to do this in summer stock and really enjoy myself and not take it that seriously? Do I want to be that exposed in a profession where I'm completely exposed? Because it will expose you. So what I'm saying, take that into account. That's what I say. And believe me when I tell you, you obviously are gifted. You know that you want this. You know that you're equipped to do it. You said, there's nothing else I want to do in my life. That's very powerful. And I believe that about young actors. They know it. You know if you're a performer. Nobody can talk you out of it. And that's a very, very powerful position you're in already. The only reason I tell you to go to school, if I told you, listen, you get a job with Martin Scorsese, don't go to school. Just stay on the set with Martin all day long. He'll teach you everything you need to know. But my point is that the reason why schools are very effective for people is that they force them into discipline every moment. And this is what a lot of young people, again, young people are very exposed to a lot of useless information. And you need to be distracted from that and focus on your work. That's the only reason you go to an academy.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. That's very
So
powerful.
good. Mitchell just started with me, and he's on the right track, that's for sure. He's really getting started and diving in. So
that's great.
I love that you're hearing the discipline, everyone. We're hearing the discipline again. You know, I think a lot of times I see it, and I think, Armand, what you're saying is all the distraction is part of it, is I see a lot of people thinking there's a lot of shortcuts in this business. And I never had a shortcut in anything I've ever done. You know, I think social media a lot of times aids in that as well, because there's just all these casting things put up and you don't, or it's networking, and just because you know this one or you know that one, and they're losing sight of learning the craft and doing the work. I see it so much. And so I think what you're saying is just so valuable for all of us to hear, because it really, there are no shortcuts. Would you agree with that, Armand?
Yeah, that's the unfortunate truth, I think, with anything in life, but especially, again, it's very easy to forget that you're going to go and put this work before thousands and thousands of people. You're going to be judged on the basis of your delivery.
Yeah.
And it's the same, what I mentioned earlier about that show that Simon Cowell has, America's Got Talent, Britain's Got Talent. What I love about that show is he's showing young people, look, you have a gift. Take the space, baby. This is your moment. Let it shine. Love it, live it, feel it, knock it out of the park. This is your moment. That's what's powerful. And that's what you have to remember. You're a very, very young person, mark my words. Your life will go by. I mean,
yeah.
It goes by. But my point is, as a very young person, take the moment to find out. And the only way you do that is to put yourself in a safe environment where you're not putting your head on a chopping block all day long. And I'll tell you something else. Watch. If you keep an eye on the movie or television industry, if you watch it carefully, you'll see so many young performers disappear. They disappear within 1 or 2 years. I never see them again. They were brilliant in something, they're gone. Because the foundation was never built. The confidence was never built. The building blocks were never built. They were not given the tools necessary to sustain themselves. And that's why I said earlier, the only thing that sustained me when I went into that environment, and that was the same environment 40 years ago, 45 years ago, same deal. You're thrown to the lions. My point is, the only things that sustained me, I had already spent 10 years in the theater and in a lot of television. So I had a lot to draw on. You know, if I could conclude and say one thing to all of the students that work with Tina, for want of a better word, cultivate your reservoir. Think of it as a reservoir. A reservoir is a place you go to drink. You look at all the great writers, all the libraries they devoured by the time they were 12. At the age of 12, they were writing like college professors. It's a fact, but there's Virginia Woolf, Ernest Hemingway, whomever it was, Harold Bloom, doesn't matter. At the age of 12, they wrote like college professors. My point is that they went to the reservoir to do that. And I'm saying, as actors, go to the reservoir. If you love movies, listen, Martin Scorsese, God knows how many films that guy had watched before he was teaching at NYU. Before he was teaching at NYU. Can you imagine how many films he was already acquainted with? And what I'm saying is that he built his reservoir from film. Virginia Woolf built a reservoir from a library. Thomas Merton built a reservoir from a library. Stanislavski built a reservoir from libraries. This is no accident. The group theater under the direction of Sanford Meisner, Stella Adler, Bobby Lewis, so many people.
You like his hand. Lee Strasberg.
The group theater because they built on the reservoir that the Moscow Art Theater had already built, which is years of discipline, not 3 weeks rehearsal, 8 months rehearsal, 1 year rehearsal, years of building these plays. And I'll conclude that the greatest actor I ever saw came out of a group of players from the country of Georgia in Russia, which was former Soviet Union, called the Rustaveli Players. His name was Ramaz Vizhezvadze. How do you pronounce that? The reason why I say he was the greatest actor, and I saw the greats, I saw all the greats live. I made it a point. When I was 21, I went to England. I watched everybody. My point is this. The reason he was the greatest is because he developed his roles for years. When he walked on that stage, he owned the theater. That's the difference. If you want to own your work, you've got to put the energy into the work. It's that simple.
That's simple. Amen. Wow. All right. 2 more quick ones and we're done, everybody. This is so valuable. I see everyone taking notes. Carter, you've had your hand up, and then Alexis, and we'll call it a night. Thank you, Armand. Carter.
Hi, Armand. Thank you for coming here tonight. We really appreciate it. I wanted to ask, you shared a lot from the whole course of your career, and you've been at it a lot longer than most of us. I'm relatively new to it myself. So I wanted to ask, in terms of your personal growth, what's a way that you've seen growth in yourself in the recent stage of your career?
What is growth for me now?
Yeah.
I don't know if I said this earlier. I said a lot, but I think growth for me now is that I'm just very discerning. I really want to know why you bring something to me. It's a piece of writing. So I might say to you, why did you write this? Why did you write it? Why do you want this done? Why do you think this is entertainment? What drives you? What motivates you? So what I'm saying is that it's not that my process has not changed. It's, I know the price of that process, what it's going to cost me mentally and physically and emotionally to engage on that journey in the process. So I have never had a career where I could have the pick of the litter. I was never on that list. But I'm saying to you, I've had a very productive and lucrative career, but I still, to this day, I still look and I say, why are we doing this? And if I do this with you, Are you going to go the distance with me? Are you going to evoke something from me that I've never seen before? That to me is what I want to do. I want to go to zones that I haven't been. You know, I'll tell you something. I work with a lot of great directors, and I mentioned a few: Sidney Lumet, Ridley Scott. I mean, there were some amazing directors in my life. The most important director for me was a man named Andrei Konchalovsky. And the reason I loved Konchalovsky is that when he was with actors working on a scene, if it wasn't happening for you, that scene, he, as a former actor himself, would literally pull it from you. He would evoke it from you. He would talk you through it. He would put you in the zone before the camera rolled. It's a brilliant way to direct, but you have to be a very accomplished artist and director and actor to understand what the actor's obligation was. Well, in that production, there were three of the most famous actresses in the world, bar none.
Oh, it froze again. Technology. Oh, there you are.
What I was saying is when Andre worked with them, he would literally talk them into the zone that they had to be in to get that moment.
Yeah, wow.
So beautiful.
Great.
So beautiful to take the time with 70 people standing around that want to go to lunch, could care less about being there. He would talk them into the zone where they felt secure enough to just let it flow. Let it flow. Let it flow. Very powerful. But to me, what I loved about him as a director, and still do, we had always with somebody that you care about deeply, you're gonna buck heads. I loved him because he approached it with the same passion of a 21-year-old kid, but through years of experience. And I would say that's the thing that as actors grow, they want. Come on, I'm not a kid anymore. I want to be taken into a zone, you know? I've been to a lot of places. I went to a lot of places in my lifetime. How about you take me somewhere? You take me somewhere now.
So good.
In a nutshell.
Yeah, really good. Okay, last one, Alexis.
Hi, my name's Alexis Garrity, and my question is, how many languages have you learned in your lifetime?
How many languages?
Yeah.
Believe it or not, I'm still trying to master the English language.
Oh, really?
No, and don't underestimate me when I say this. I have a profound respect for the English language. In fact, as a young actor, I was called upon to do very heady writers like Shaw and Shakespeare. I only want to stick this in because other languages came into my life a lot. But I only want to stick this in because what I'm saying is, if you learn to respect the power of words, and even as a young actor, you respect the writer whether you're doing George Bernard Shaw or Tennessee Williams or Shakespeare, you have to have the courage to ride the language that they write in. Shakespeare wrote in Iambic pentameter. You have to mount the horse. You have to ride the language. Why do you ride the language? You ride the language because he's giving birth to your behavior. He's actually giving you your character if you're courageous enough to take on all those words. And it's a lot of words, but they're beautiful words. They're brilliant words. But my point is, a lot of actors look at it, especially in the world we live in today, where they don't even want words in scripts anymore. I mean, it's all about. But my point is, if you're willing to embrace the English language and look at what writers have given you, Those are the keys that give you the behavior so you can give birth to a character, a great character. But you really have to really discipline yourself to the words. He will be speaking to you, believe it or not, unconsciously in your sleep. Those words will. Now, in terms of other languages, I have had to speak Italian, French, Spanish, even Russian once. And it's a discipline unto itself. You have to sit down and make it a minimum 3-hour session every day. I mean, for me, I'm just I'm a slow learner. I always have been. But I mean, I have to really discipline myself, because the one thing you want to do, if you do have the privilege of speaking another language, speak it well.
Yeah. Wow. All right. Thank you, Alexis. Okay. Well, our time is up. This was unbelievable session. Armand, we have so much to talk about in classes. We have a class tomorrow at 10 a.m. So we've got a lot of coverage. I've got all my notes here, what you were sharing with us as well. Bye, Audrey. So much to process, so much for us to process. You are brilliant. You really are brilliant. It's just a joy to hear how you work, Armand, and how you just dive so deep into your work. We appreciate you more than I can even express. If you don't mind, what I would like to do is I'm going to have someone pray for you, if that's okay. I always like to leave and have one of my students pray over you, our guest, before we go. And yeah, we just want to, we would just want to bless you. And I'm going to be out there sometime in Goshen around August. I mean, October, maybe. I'll let you know. I'll touch base with you. But God bless you. Thank you. Richard, I'm going to ask you to do the honors with the Cajun accent tonight. If you would please pray for everyone and Armand in particular. Thank you, Armand. God bless, and your friend who's helping you over there. Thank you.
Father, we just thank you for this time tonight to learn our craft, to bring you glory. And Father, we just all ask a blessing upon Armand, especially during this time where he has a lot of things going on. I pray that you just give him peace in his life during this time, and also the joy. I pray for him, for his family, and we just ask you to bless him. And we ask it in your Son, Jesus' name. Amen. Amen.
Amen.
God bless. Thank you so much.
May the favor of God be with you and safe travels on your upcoming journey. And from all of my heart, I love you, especially squeezing this in with your schedule, Armand. I love you. Thank you.
Thank you, Armand.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Armand. We appreciate it.
Thank
you, Armand.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,